homebrewers, I am JabeerIni, and today I'll show you how I'll brew the beer I'll be submitting for BrewDog's homebrew competition. The beer style I'll be brewing is an American IPA, which is one of my favorite styles, and also, as you may know, one of BrewDog's strongest points. But that's not all, because we'll be experimenting today. I could just have rebrewed my double IPA, which is, as you may know as well, one of the best beers I've brewed, in my opinion. But instead of that, I've decided to get out of the comfort zone and experiment. In particular, we'll be experimenting with two new methods, which are new to me, and both are intended to highlight and provide more character to the hop profile in the beer. Those two methods are first Wort addition and a wee twist in the 0-minute hop additions. So this will be one of those episodes on which I've read a lot about those methods, but at the end of the day I'll be crossing my fingers that they turn out right. I'll give you, as usual, all of the pertinent details in due course. Now, without further ado, let's get brewing! And here we're in the kitchen, so first things first, let's get a home brew. This is my version of Rock IPA by BrewDog. If you haven't seen the review of this one, click on the wee eye icon in the top right corner and you'll be redirected. Let's open it. There we have it. It's not too heavily carbonated, which is good in my opinion. Let's give it a pour. Look how clean it is. It's very, very, very clear. And that surprises me a lot actually, because I didn't use Protofluc with this one. Look at that, you can clearly see my finger back there. Cheers! Alright, so I guess this one will get me inspired and into the BrewDog spirit for the beer we'll be brewing. Let's take a look at the ingredients we'll be using. Alright, so as usual, 5 liters of water in this container, which we'll be using as a fermenter. Now the grains, and this is actually a cool part because I've never used that many grains. I'm trying to create a complex body for this beer. So the base malt we'll be using is Otter. We'll be using 600 grams of this one. We'll also be using 300 grams of Munich because I really loved the sweet taste it gave to my summer red IPA. And we'll also be using 300 grams of Pilsner malt, which hopefully will contribute to the body and also the crispiness of the beer. As specialty grains, we'll be using Crystal and CaraRed, 20 grams of each one, to increase the body and the mouth feel of this beautiful beer. Now the hops. For bittering, we'll be using US Magnum, and for flavor and aroma, we'll be using Centennial, Citra, and Pacific Jade. Since, as you may imagine, there will be several hop additions, I'll give you those details once I have them measured. As fining agent, I'll be using 1/4 of a tablet of Protofluc. And last, but most important, I'll be using Mangrove Jack's Liberty Bell Ale yeast. That's an M36. Half a packet. So let's get it on! So let's pour the whole content of this bottle into our pot, and let's get that to 65 degrees. So now our water is at 65 degrees. Time to start the mash. This will be a 90-minute mash, and you may ask yourselves, why 90 minutes instead of the usual 60 minutes? Well, because BrewDog's Punk IPA, when I brewed it, it was a 90-minute mash, and I highly suspect that the clearness, the flavor, the high efficiency of the grains, of the mash itself, was due to those 90-minute mash. So, why not to give it a try on this one? These big boys will be here for that time. I occasionally, normally every 10 to 15 minutes, I stir them like this, which is called doughing the mash, just to make sure that they are all well immersed and there are no dough balls in the mash, which is what will definitely guarantee a maximum efficiency. Now, as you can imagine, the smell is beautiful. I've never used Pilsner before. I'm smelling a lot of Munich, that sweet chamomile smell from Mars, Otter and Munich, which I really love. I'm not picking any Pilsner, so I believe it should be pretty standard malt. And what I'm noticing, and probably this is one of the contributions from Pilsner, is that foam, which I normally don't have with Maris, Otter and Munich. And that's it. I'll be back to show you the measured hops. Cheers! Alright, so here I'm back to present you the stars of this show. Here we have 2 grams of Magnum, which will be added as first wort. That means that contrary to what we have always done, which is after the sparge, wait for a rolling boil and then add the first hops, the bittering hops, we will add them just when the mash is over, before the sparge. And therefore they will remain for longer and they will begin acting in a lower temperature. Then they will get to the boil and then they will basically remain during the whole process. Then we have 3 grams of Citra and Centennial, that is 3 grams of each, which will be added at 30 minutes before the end of the boil. Here we have 5 grams of Pacific Jade, 20 minutes before the end of the boil. And finally we have 2 grams of each Citra, Centennial and Pacific Jade, which will be added at flame out. Now, contrary to what we have always done, which is to add it and then flame out and then chill the wort, I got a tip from Beer Goggler from a Facebook group to which I belong, which is Lakey Bloke Beer Chat, and he said that you can achieve a better hop aroma if you wait for your wort to be at 80 degrees after flame out, obviously, and then add those hops for 30 minutes. So I read, and yes, apparently that's a very good technique. So thank you very much for the tip, Beer Goggler or Googler. I'll be back once the mash is done. Cheers! Alright, 90 minutes have passed. The mash is over now. Look at that color. Beautiful. So it's time to do 2 things. First, our first hop addition. These are the bittering hops added as first wort. And now, the second thing we have to do is to sparge. Here I have approximately 1.5 liters of boiling water. So I'll just finish this and I'll be back once we have the rolling boil. Alright, cheers! And here we have the rolling boil that we needed to start our timer and not do anything else because the bittering hops are already in there. Alright, 30 minutes before the end of the boil, time to add 3 grams of Centennial and 3 grams of Citra, and in they go. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Cheers! Alright, 20 minutes before the end of the boil, time to add 5 grams of Pacific Jade. And there they go. 10 minutes before the end of the boil, time to add 1/4 of a tablet of Protoflock, and in it goes. I'll be back for the flame out. Alright, time's up. Time to turn this off. And we will leave it like that until it goes to 80 degrees, which is when we'll add the aroma hops. I'll be back then. Cheers! And here we have it. It actually went down to 70 degrees really quick. So it's time to add these hops, which is 2 grams of Citra, Centennial and Pacific Jade. And it's time to start a timer for 30 minutes, which is the time that we will leave these hops here for more flavor and aroma. I'll be back once it's done. Alright, time's up, 30 minutes have passed, so it's time to cool this down. So as usual, I'll be stirring this time for less than 5 minutes. I think 3 minutes will do, until it reaches probably 27, 26 degrees. I'll be back then. Cheers! Alright, so now the wort's ready. It's between 26 and 25 degrees. Let's go. Here we go. And there you have it already in the fermenter, along with the sample I took for the gravity rating. And as always, here's a pic for you to see it better. It's 1078. This is a very high original gravity, even if I know that we won't reach a very low final gravity. But in any case, this will surely be above 6.3% ABV. So it's time to pitch our yeast. There you have a better angle. Sanitized pair of scissors. So we got this. And here we go. And that's it. Time to put the airlock. Here we have a sanitized lid with a hole. Sanitized and pre-filled airlock. And a sanitized lid. So I'll leave this fermenting at 20 degrees and I'll see you tomorrow to give you some updates. Cheers! Hey there, good morning! Here we are next day, and there in the back you can see our fermenting wort and hopefully soon to be good enough IPA as for winning BrewDog's competition. Fingers crossed, because one never knows. There are a couple of comments I wanted to make. The first one is related to the yeast. This is the second time I try Mangrove Jack's M36 Liberty Bell. As you may remember, the first time I tried it was with the stout I brewed in the previous episode. So unfortunately, I haven't had the time to taste the final result. But I've noticed two things in common now. One is that it kicks in really fast, or in any case faster than M42. And the second one is that the fermentation phase is shorter. Not materially shorter, I'm only talking about a couple of days less. So that's comment number one. Comment number two is that I'll be dry hopping that beer once fermentation is over with 5 grams of Pacific Jade, 3 grams of Centennial and 2 grams of Citra for 5 days in the coldest place I can find in my house, which is around 15 degrees. So that's it. That's it for this week. Thank you for watching. I really hope you had as much fun as I did. I hope you found this video useful, and I sincerely wish you to wish me the best of luck and see if I win this competition. If you like what you see, like, and don't forget to subscribe. And as usual, thanks for watching. Cheers and beers!